It sounds like Jerry's been on a bit of a solo mission. He is picking up the phone, he is making calls.
It's going to be a complete reset. So it's going to be a very interesting and challenging offseason. But listen, I trust my owner, I trust our GM.
I know we just made a video on the Dallas Cowboys. You're going to have to forgive me, but Jerry Jones is at an unprecedented rate of doing dumb shit to this team. I mean, I've been a Cowboy fan for over 2 decades, since the Quincy Carter years, when Dave Campo was on the sidelines leading us to those glorious 5-11 records. And I've got to say, the rate at which Jerry Jones is making terrible decisions and the rumors we're hearing about the Cowboys are jaw-dropping. So before we get to the content, I once again want to thank you guys for helping us get to 1 million subscribers. Whether you're someone consuming the content or you're helping me make the content, the reason I'm repeating it through so many videos is because when I hit 1 million on my other channel, some people missed the thank you, so I just want to make sure you guys all felt thanked. And thank you for helping me realize a lifelong dream. Now that we get all that out of the way, work! We're getting another free square from PrizePicks. All Will Howard needs is 1 passing yard in order for a square to hit, and recently I've been on a crazy hot streak, including this 2-leg to make me $90, this 4-leg to make me $320, and another 2-leg to make me $90. If you haven't signed up for PrizePicks, use my promo code Mikerophone to get $50 when you make a play of $5, and I'm gonna give you my play with the free square for free on my Instagram at @TheFlightMike or on Snapchat FlightMikeSnap. And thank you PrizePicks for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? There's a certain amount of doom when you happen to be a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, primarily because there's nothing that this team can do that'll make you feel confident in their future. And the reason is summarized perfectly here by Ari Meirov. The Dallas Cowboys' handling of negotiations and money is downright baffling. They basically sat out free agency last year, dragged their feet with player extensions, and created unnecessary drama with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott by waiting until the 11th hour to get deals done. And it's not just them. This has been a pattern with several players over the years. They made Mike McCarthy and his entire staff coach out their contracts, blocked McCarthy from interviewing with the Bears last week, only to part ways anyway. In week 18, they even benched Cooper Rush to avoid paying a $250,000 incentive for playing 55% of snaps on the year. He was at 52%, completely avoidable chaos and not what you'd expect from America's team. I'm sorry to say, but this is exactly what I've come to expect from America's team. I'd like to say from the very beginning, it's abundantly clear that the Dallas Cowboys are not interested in winning Super Bowls. They're interested in generating as much of a media frenzy and as much controversy as humanly possible to get people talking about them to be as profitable as humanly possible. Because the way this organization is run clearly doesn't indicate that they know what they're doing. If you know what you're doing, you extend Dak Prescott the moment he's available for an extension if he is your quarterback of the future. The same could be said about CeeDee Lamb. The same could be said about Micah Parsons. And I've said this multiple times every single time I made a video on the Dallas Cowboys. You want to see a model franchise that knows how to shed salary, how to extend players, and when to extend players? Look no further than the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't get me wrong, Howie Roseman is far from perfect, but whenever you give Howie Roseman talent, he knows how to maximize their value and how to make sure he doesn't overpay for said talent. Jalen Hurts' cap hit this year is $21 million. Dak Prescott's cap hit, on the other hand, is $89 million if he stays with the franchise. Jalen Hurts got a contract extension 2 years before he was eligible. AJ Brown was one of the first wide receivers to get extended this offseason. With the amount that the Eagles saved from the salary cap, they were able to afford Saquon Barkley. This is on top of drafting well recently with Jalen Carter a few years ago and Quinyon Mitchell this past year, in addition to extending Devontae Smith way before any wide receiver got a contract extension. And that is how a model franchise is run. And bear in mind, I want to make it clear, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. I hate the Eagles, but I'm going to tell you when a team's doing something right. With that being said, I don't want this to turn into a Dallas Cowboys rant. The last time we made a video on the Cowboys was when they decided to fire Mike McCarthy. In that video, I said that I didn't necessarily disagree with the decision. I disagree with the timing of the decision, and I disagree with the manner that the decision was made. Blocking an interview from the Chicago Bears to indicate that Mike McCarthy was going to be your head coach of the future just so you don't extend his contract is very classless. But on top of that, if you felt like Mike McCarthy wasn't going to be your coach of the future, if you fired him 3 weeks before the end of the season, or you made it abundantly clear in league circles that you're probably going to move on from him, then you would have probably had an opportunity to get Bill Belichick. And this is all stuff I've covered in my last video. And since then, Cowboys players have felt very conflicted about the departure of Mike McCarthy. But before we dive into this, I want to make something abundantly clear. I agree with Troy Aikman wholeheartedly in this take.
Job. I don't know that that's accurate. I mean, I do think the Cowboys are obviously a high-profile team. Whoever is covering or whoever is head coach of that team is certainly going to draw a lot of attention. But I think most football people that take over as a head coach, they want to do it on their terms.
That's fair.
That's hard to do. And it's, you know, if you take a Dan Campbell, for instance, is Dan Campbell if he's with the Dallas Cowboys? It's hard to imagine that he is. It's hard to imagine that a lot of these coaches might be. So I love the Dallas Cowboys. I played there for 12 years. I wish them well, but to say that it's a coveted job, I'm not sure I would necessarily agree with that.
The Dallas Cowboys head coaching gig is not a desirable gig. You're in a division where you are the third best team, and the Philadelphia Eagles and Washington Commanders are significantly better than you are. You don't have salary cap space at all to improve, and there are glaring holes on the defensive side of the ball. You need a running back, and your offensive line is currently going through a little bit of a renovation. Your quarterback has the highest cap hit in the entire NFL over Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, Derek Carr, and Matthew Stafford. He has the highest APY in the NFL, and Dak Prescott also has a no trade clause, but that isn't stopping trade rumors from going around, and I know you probably clicked on this video because you want me to talk about that, and we'll get to that soon. No blue chip head coach is going to want this position. Coaches like Ben Johnson, who have been hot names in the coaching cycle for over a year now, don't wait for an opportunity to take a situation on like the Cowboys where you need to become Jerry Jones's lapdog and there's virtually no room to make any moves to improve the roster. With that being said, I want to talk about how the Cowboys felt about Mike McCarthy's departure. Micah Parsons says that he was devastated about Mike McCarthy being let go from Dallas and says a complete reset could be coming.
He's always been good to us as a unit. Losing a great coach like Mike hurts, but it's going to be very interesting offseason. It's going to be a complete reset. So it's going to be a very interesting and challenging offseason. But listen, I trust my owner. I trust our GM.
I wanted to say that Jerry Jones is without a doubt one of the best owners in the NFL. However, Jerry Jones is one of the worst general managers, if not the worst general manager in the entire NFL, which is why I'm so scared about this next report, because if you're a Cowboy fan, this is without a doubt your worst nightmare. Apparently, the Cowboys' next head coach is going to be chosen solely by Jerry Jones in what is being conducted as a solo mission. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is coming from Jane Slater.
It sounds like Jerry's been on a bit of a solo mission. He is picking up the phone. He is making calls.
So far, the top candidates to become head coaches for the Dallas Cowboys aren't anything that Cowboy fans should be excited about. You have Kellen Moore, who is the offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. Last year, he was the offensive coordinator of the LA Chargers, and prior to that, he was the offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys. He once was a blue chip name in head coaching circles, but since then, he's become somewhat of a journeyman offensive coordinator. And then at the same time, you have Jason Witten. If you don't remember, about a month ago, Jerry Jones had this to say about Jason Witten.
Very sophisticated when it comes to understanding football and all the nuances, but more important than anything, he really does understand the physical and the mentality of being physical, that part of it. So without a question, he can become a coach
which is so frustrating because pretty much what Jerry Jones is saying is, oh, Jason Witten played tight end for Cowboys, Dan Campbell was tight end for Lions, so we can hire Jason Witten as a head coach. Now, Jason Witten has tried his hand at coaching, but he doesn't have extensive experience as a coach. He's been a head coach of a high school football team named Liberty Christian for the past 3 years, but apart from that, Jason Witten played for Bill Parcells, Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, and 1 year of Mike McCarthy before playing for John Gruden for a season. When you compare that to Dan Campbell, it's nothing alike. Dan Campbell was also there for the first 3 seasons of Jason Witten's career with the Dallas Cowboys when Bill Parcells was the head coach, before playing briefly for the Detroit Lions and then playing for Sean Payton in 2009. He would then become a coaching intern in 2010, become a tight ends coach from 2011 to 2015, even briefly getting an opportunity to be an interim head coach in 2015, then served underneath Sean Payton from 2016 to 2020 before getting his opportunity as the Detroit Lions head coach in 2021. Way more head coaching experience, and to be honest, way more of a personality. For all you know, Jason Witten could be a good head coach, but it's just the conclusion that Jerry Jones is drawing based off of such a limited body of work is what's so troubling to me. But you may have heard that there is one head coach in particular that Jerry Jones wants more than anyone, and that is Coach Prime. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, very shortly after we found out that Mike McCarthy was officially out as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, we also found out that Jerry Jones was making phone calls to his former All-Pro cornerback, Deion Sanders. And this isn't something that I scraped from the bottom of the barrel, this is something that Adam Schefter confirmed. Sanders and Cowboys owner Jerry Jones go way back, and there were multiple media reports, first from Jordan Schultz of Fox Sports, and confirmed by ESPN and NFL media on Monday night. According to Adam Schefter, Deion Sanders and Jerry Jones have spoken about the Cowboys head coaching job, as Schultz reported, and their talks will continue. You know what this is? This is Jerry Jones hitting up every single media source possible, trying to leak out the fact that the Cowboys are talking to Deion Sanders. That being said, Jones and Sanders have talked about the Cowboys' vacant head coaching job. Jones is looking for a new head coach after he and Mike McCarthy parted ways, as McCarthy's contract expired. Sanders confirmed the reports, telling ESPN's Adam Schefter to hear from Jerry Jones is truly delightful, and it's intriguing. I love Jerry and I believe in Jerry. After you hang up and process it and think about it, it's intriguing. But I love Boulder and everything there is about our team, coaches, our student body, and the community. You know what kind of energy this is giving? You remember when Nick Saban was consistently telling us that he was not going to go to Alabama when he was on the Miami Dolphins, only to have eventually taken a job with the Alabama Crimson Tide? This is very much giving this type of energy. And look, so far we have reactions from players in the Dallas Cowboys in regards to this rumor. According to Jordan Schultz, Cowboys star wide receiver CeeDee Lamb liked our IG post about Jerry Jones speaking with Deion Sanders regarding the team's head coaching vacancy. Des Bryant is a huge fan of it as well, but I think if there's a take I agree with a little bit more, it's Louis Riddick over here.
There's the business and then there's the profession. From a business standpoint, this has a lot of people excited, and I understand why. These are two of the biggest personalities in American sports for obviously different reasons. But then there's the profession. And see, I know Deion the professional as well as the businessman, but I know him even more so as the professional. And this is just not a match to me that seems like it makes a whole lot of sense from a professional standpoint. Deion is the ultimate alpha. The ultimate alpha. He has his hands on every single part of the Colorado football team. He won't have the same kind of influence in Dallas. We all know this. We talk about this on Get Up every year. We understand what head coaches are up against when they're going and working for Jerry Jones and you're working at the Dallas Cowboys. It's a unique situation. Does that to me sound like a match for Deion? Look, I don't want to speak for the man. You should never try and speak for the man, but I'll speak from experience. It doesn't seem like a good match for me, but there's a difference between the business and the profession, and professionally I just don't see this as being a match.
The Deion Sanders rumors are so complicated because historically Deion Sanders has wanted to coach one man and one man only, and that's his son Shedeur Sanders. But at the same time, the Dallas Cowboys just extended Dak Prescott, and this isn't like any extension you've ever seen. Dak Prescott's contract is crippling, and in order for this trade to happen, the Cowboys would need need to, one, find a way to get Shedeur Sanders, and two, find a taker for Dak Prescott. And bear in mind, Dak Prescott has a no trade clause, meaning that if the Cowboys wanted to include Dak Prescott in a trade package to send him to either Tennessee for the first overall pick or Cleveland for the number 2 overall pick, Dak Prescott is going to have to sign off on it. Do you think Dak Prescott would sign off on either of those options? Cleveland you could already throw away because Cleveland is in salary cap hell as a result of the Deshaun Watson contract, which by the way they may get out of, and we have a separate video on that. But in the case of the Tennessee Titans, I'm truly seeing some absurd trade speculation that I need to break down for you guys. So in this crazy trade scenario, the Dallas Cowboys trade Dak Prescott to the Tennessee Titans, and the Titans send back a number 1 overall pick, a 4th round pick, and a 3rd round pick. I don't think I've ever seen this happen in the history of the NFL, at least not while I was a fan. I don't think I've ever seen a team that decided to move on from the number 1 overall pick, an opportunity to draft a quarterback on a rookie scale contract that has limitless potential. I mean, it's kind of exciting if you think about it. Every single time a team drafts a rookie QB, there's this question of how good is he going to be? Is he going to be a gigantic bust? Or is he going to play above our expectations? There's excitement when you draft a new QB. You got to think of it further than just trying to win games. This is something that you got to sell fans on. No fan is going to be excited about the Titans trading for Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott isn't going to go from a much better team to the Tennessee Titans. He's not going to waive his no trade clause for that. It's kind of crazy. There's like virtually no way that the Cowboys could get Shedeur Sanders by involving Dak Prescott in a trade. The only way the Cowboys could get Shedeur Sanders is if they trade up from the number 12 overall spot to the number 2 overall spot with the Cleveland Browns. I'm assuming that the number 1 overall pick is going to be Cam Ward. I'm assuming that Deion Sanders is going to stomp his feet and tell Cleveland not to draft Shedeur Sanders. If you want to look at the type of trade this would be, it'd be very similar to what the 49ers gave up in order to move on to the number 3 overall pick to trade for Trey Lance. They gave up 1st and 3rd round picks in 2022, a 1st round pick in 2023, and the 12th overall pick that year. Doing that to move up to the number 2 overall pick or the number 3 overall pick when you already have the highest paid quarterback in the NFL is one of the dumbest things you can do. But I guess this is some way that you could force Dak Prescott into being okay with waiving his no trade clause, perhaps. I think the other way that this can go down is just trade Dak Prescott into a favorable situation. I mean, trade him to the Steelers maybe, or pull off what the Philadelphia Eagles did in the late 2000s and trade him to the Giants, or maybe you trade him to the New York Jets. The Jets have some solid pieces, although whatever's going on in their front office seems to be a nightmare. I just can't see a world where this makes any sense. So if Deion Sanders wants to come to the Dallas Cowboys, he's going to have to make peace with the fact that he might not be able to coach his son. And I just don't think I could see this happening without the Cowboys getting Shedeur Sanders, but I can't figure out a way in my head to make it work. I guess you could have him sit behind Dak for a season and then try to trade Dak in 2026 or 2027 when his cap hit is a little less. I mean, it goes from 89.8 million to 67 million the year after. But a part of me feels like this is just a rumor that Jerry Jones is dangling to the media because he desperately wants the media to talk about the Dallas Cowboys during playoff time. Could Deion Sanders be the head coach that the Cowboys need? I'm not necessarily sure. As a Cowboy fan, I don't necessarily know if this is what's going to take us over the top, but we have such severe issues in managing the salary cap right now. I don't think it really matters. I don't think any coach could take this team to a Super Bowl or into contention. But I guess the next best thing is the Cowboys putting me in a situation to create as much content on them as possible, and I believe hiring Deion Sanders would be the easiest content ever. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this, man. I know we've been talking about this for a while. Aside from that, I don't know if you heard, but there's a video out there that could ruin Deshaun Watson's career. I'll leave it in the end screen and I'll meet you guys there. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.